creature landed rolling and then running. The darter that nested in the eaves missed it, but not by much. Wanbli watched without taking sides, and then turned away from the edge. Replacing the insect screen, which was invisible except for a slight shimmer, and which also kept out dust, he stepped to the hatch and went down. The first place he went was to the kitchen for a cup of tea. He made it strong and added a childish amount of milk and sugar. Sugar was more or less taboo for the Wakan, and for that reason he enjoyed it immensely. Long after the dextrose had let him down, the knowledge of his sin would keep Wanbli bright-eyed and smug. He knew this about himself. He knew how and when to sin. He had learned it in school. The next place he went, cup in hand, was to the full-length mirror in the dormitory. There he examined his image critically, but with some enjoyment. His skeletal proportions were very balanced. Of course, he was a Wakan. His muscular development left little to be desired also, and that was more his own doing. His coloring, which might have been café au lait on another, colder world, was bright russet, and the black hair shone with red highlights, even under the cool, artificial light of the room. The eyes with which he regarded himself were dark and of a garnet shade. This much was a given. So was his perfectly nice Wakan face. To outsiders they were peas in a pod. It was not his face or his head or even his general physique that held Wanbli's attention, but his tattoos. Starting at the dimple at the base of the throat and running under the length of each clavicle were tattoos of feathers, long feathers, black with gold edging, which ended only at the top of the arms. Below, drawn from the solar plexus along the bottom of the rib cage and drooping gracefully down almost to the navel, was another pair, this time of blue just touched by green, like the dusty sky of Tichizet. It was also edged in gold. Lower, where they would be covered by any shorts or breechclout, were a still more graceful and drooping pair of feather tattoos, and this pair was entirely gold. Wanbli glanced down at this tattoo and had to grin, even though he had won it almost a year since. He had been known to suffer quite a bit of pain to pluck out pubic hairs that threatened to obscure the gold feathers. The training of a paint was a very challenging thing. Many young Wakan found themselves turning to other occupations, crafts, farming, even digging into the crumbly yellow sandstone of South Bay for its sparse minerals, rather than completing the 10 years of study, workout, privation, and ordeal that led to the journeyman eagle. Wanbli, who had learned all 3 eagles in that same length of time, thought he was rather special among paints. His education had been rewarding. He could wish the working life of a paint to be half as much fun. 10 years climbing a ladder to find nothing on top. Nothing but day after day. His reflection was looking sour. He changed its expression. "You'll do for one more day," he said very severely to his image, and went to his shelf to decide how to cover his golden pride this day. For the different weathers of New Nacht, he had 3 sorts of outfits: G-strings, breechclouts, and thigh-length shorts. Nights were colder. At night he might wear a blanket affair with a hole in it for his head. It was not comfortable, but it was custom. As it seemed a temperate sort of day, he chose a woven breechclout. First he spread it down on his bed, along the striped blanket, made a small bunch in the middle of it, and raised his fist. He hit the bed a blow that shivered the batting from one end to another, but the little hollow he had created in the fabric of the breechclout remained rigid. Then he poked it gently with a finger, and it collapsed, as fabric should. It was a bother to perform this test every day, but once, as a stripling, Wanbli had found himself neglecting it and had gone out into practice with a broken seatbelt. The first solid blow to the crotch had put him out of training for a week and made him the butt of jokes through his whole clan sept. He hated to be made fun of, so now he was careful. On the waistband of the breechclout, he snapped his holster, which contained a stocky little gun with a funnel-shaped barrel, his blunderbuss. On the other side went his wallet, a small leatherette bag containing his personal logic pad, his case knife, a pack of chewing gum, and various items of magical import. Off the estate, he might also carry money. Most of the citizens of Tichizet wore their wallets around their necks, but the painted Wakan made a taboo of that. One might be strangled by the cord, was the official explanation, but in fact the cord need not be heavy enough to be dangerous. The truth was that a wallet so hung obscured the wearer's.
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.